Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
I promise you, this is not a political podcast.
Jump from the deep end of the pool, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. 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 Set up the mood.
Testicles 1, 2, testicles. Welcome back to Paranormal Radio Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Trebles Garcia, the humble host of this amazing adventure. And I want to thank the Lord for allowing me to be here today. And I want to thank every single one of you for allowing me to enter your space. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have an amazing episode lined up for all of you guys. But please remember that the most important thing that you could do for the show is word of mouth. Check us out at paranormalradio.com. Cough up some of the t-shirts and word of mouth. Tell someone about the show. Your stepmom, your stepdad, the neighbor, sexy cousin, whatever it is, tell someone about the show. Ladies and gentlemen, also, do not forget to drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. This allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. Allow me to jump in from the deep end of the pool and set the mood and give a proper introduction to this amazing lady, the first female paranormal enthusiast and paranormal sorry, fucked up on the intro. The first female paranormal investigator on the show today. Brain fart. Please give a warm welcome to Gina Black. How are you doing today?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me.
Dude, normally I don't stutter as much and I run through that intro quick. Today I just got starstruck. I'm just a little nervous. Let me know where you hail from. When can people find you?
So I'm originally from New York, New Jersey area, and I've been living in Florida for a good half of my life. And I am SheHaunts on social media. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok.
And she has amazing content. You do stuff that I like to do. I like taking strolls down a graveyard and sipping coffee and hot cocoa. Believe it or not, that's what I like to do as well. I dwell into conspiracy theories and dark thrillers and slashers and slasher films and dark stuff, morbid stuff is where I really rejoice myself. What is it that you bring forth? What is your content about?
So my content kind of spans all spookiness. I am a paranormal investigator, like you mentioned. I'm a writer. So I write about the paranormal. I work for a magazine for about a year. I also run my own blog and I'm a photographer as well. I prefer cemeteries as my subject matter. I love the sculpture. I'm very interested in the various symbolism that you find in a lot of old cemeteries from the Victorian era. There's a wealth of information that's hidden in the artwork. So I got kind of curious and I started doing research because I wanted to know what I was photographing. And, you know, there's just so much interesting history that's lost to time because we just don't really talk about that anymore. It was at one time, especially in the United States, death was a part of life. It was celebrated, it was mourned very deeply, and it was a part of everybody's everyday life. And people weren't afraid of it. People didn't back away from it. It wasn't taboo. It wasn't macabre. It was just natural and normal. And nowadays it's kind of lost to time in a way. So, you know, I like to really kind of dive into the history of those things. So I do cover paranormal theories. I also like going to graveyards, taking photos and videos as well.
That is amazing. Extremely interested, extremely talented, and a well-rounded artist. Check this out. Okay, let's dive into it. You said something, I'm gonna throw you. This is gonna be a curveball here. I know I sent you the I like sending my guests the questions, and I like to keep it very basic. But you mentioned something about the architecture and the art on the tombstones and on the graveyards. Tell me a little bit about that. What have you learned in your research?
Well, basically, when you go to these older cemeteries, especially from the time period of anywhere from the 1800s to the early mid 1900s, you're seeing symbols on graves that have hidden meaning, hidden symbolism. Some of these might be hands shaking, and this has a variety of reasons. It could be the spirit of the deceased being welcomed into heaven by God. It can also mean that person had a healthy relationship with their partner. and the partner would miss them. So there's two meanings on that. There are all kinds of meanings for flowers. One of the popular ones is roses. And if you see a rose that represents beauty, we have romance, but then there's also the smaller roses, the rose buds, and that usually represents a life that was extinguished before it had a chance to bloom. And there's just so many different symbols that you'll find if you kind of, take a little time to look around the graveyard. And what I started doing was I was noticing more and more of them, and I would look them up online, and I started going and speaking to people that either work for cemeteries or run tours. And I just kind of compiled this list of information that's been passed down, basically. And it's just really fascinating to me when you find these interesting symbols, and you can learn a little bit about our culture, our ancestors, and how they perceive death and their loved ones.
I hope you don't mind here. I'm a conspiracy theorist, dude. I like going deep into some what I like to call reality, because and I'm like, I live a weird lifestyle. I can't watch. I like to say this: I don't watch movies and I don't listen to music. At least any time of new modern music, because it's against my religion. I listen to 80s music. I think that's like a death. That was the best blooming culture. All the rock, all the scenery, all the styles. I think that was the best anyway. But still, going off topic. And I hope you don't mind, I'm gonna take this here, but some people always focus only on the living and how secret societies and dark occult groups all leave symbols for the living. However, I also think now this just bloomed in my head. There could also be symbols for the dead, for people that were part of these cultures, parts of these societies and clubs. What do you think about that?
It is a possibility. I think that's an interesting theory, and perhaps, maybe worth taking a little deeper dive down the rabbit hole.
All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check her out as SheHaunts on Instagram. You have a YouTube channel as well, I believe?
No, I do not. I have a blog where I write about my paranormal experiments, research, experiences, along those lines, and I, have the social pages.
Good stuff. All right. You mentioned your paranormal investigation, and you also mentioned your experiences. What's one of your most significant paranormal investigations?
So I've been on investigations around the United States. I do live in Florida, so a lot of my experiences are in Florida. And this one, was a very interesting investigation that I'm going to talk about. It was actually in Georgia, which is not far from me. And I went to the Sorrel Weed House. And the Sorrel Weed House is a famous house for a few reasons. A lot of people recognize it from the movie Forrest Gump. It's when they tossed the feather off the roof. It was that house. It was also made very popular and got on a lot of, the radar for paranormal enthusiasts because it was featured on a lot of ghost hunting shows, such as Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters. And it's open for investigation. So you can actually sign up on, I believe it's Saturdays, and you can go in at night and you can actually investigate this location. So I went with my husband, and, there was not too many people there. We were paired up with another couple, and there were some other people, and they kind of moved them around the property. And this home was, when it was first built, the foundation and the basics of the house was actually part of a barracks, a soldier's barracks. And then it was purchased by a doctor, and he built up what is now known as the Sorrel Weed House on top of this former barracks. So it had that history of the soldiers. He built on top of it. The basement area was where he actually saw patients, and he did some experimenting on patients down in this basement. It kind of gives off a little bit of the vibe of, have you ever seen that show, American Horror Story?
I've seen a couple of the first series, before the Gaga series.
Well, the first season, they were in the haunted house, and there's a lot of parallels to the Sorrel Weed House, which is interesting. And so the basement is, the doctor's area. And it was also an area where enslaved people would do various tasks, such as laundry and other things that they would be tasked to do. The upper floors are parlors, living quarters, and then there is the carriage house. The carriage house, the first floor of that was where they kept the carriages, and the second floor of the carriage house is where the enslaved people were living, their quarters. and it's a very haunted area of the property. So when I was on this investigation, went in with an open mind, didn't know what I was going to see, didn't know what I was going to experience. And, we started out in the basement, didn't get much activity. We went around all the parlors, it's starting to feel like a kind of a dead night. No pun intended.
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Yeah.
You never know with paranormal. And I tell people this all the time. You're seeing exciting stuff on TV, but most of a paranormal investigation is quiet, listening. There's not a lot going on. And, out of hours, you might get a little tiny bit of action. But this night seemed like it was kind of dead. So we get all the way up to the carriage house. We're the last group that's going to have this spot. And the caretaker brought us up. She opened up the second floor for us. And she said, hey, you guys are the last group of the night. This is just a suggestion. This was a very happy place. The enslaved people that lived here, they worked really hard. And when they were done with their work for the day, they would often be, cooking together. They would sing together. It was an area where they could kind of commune, and it was happy, and it was, lighthearted energy. And she said, try to keep your questions light, try to keep your conversations light, because this is a space that doesn't really get doom and gloom. This is a nice, happy space. So we were, using all of our equipment. We're not really getting much. And I had this idea. And I said, well, she mentioned that they used to sing. And my husband's a musician. So I said, why don't we see if we can get any activity if you start singing? So we had a spirit box on, and a spirit box is a device that kind of shifts through radio stations at a very rapid pace. It creates white noise. And in paranormal world, if you use one of these on investigation, sometimes you can hear words through the white noise, which is very spooky. And so we had this running, and my husband didn't know any songs, obviously, from that time period. But I said, hey, maybe you could sing something bluesy, something soulful. So he sang Elvis, and he sang the song Blue Suede Shoes. So he's singing Blue Suede Shoes, which is a good one, right? And we start hearing singing on the spirit box. And it was wild. So we start hearing singing, a female singing. And then we quiet down because we're listening now, because we're thinking, all right, maybe we're making contact. And we hear an older man come through say, I don't trust him. And then we hear a young child or a female, a very, high-pitched voice say, they're okay. And then again, another singing, like someone singing a long note, comes through, and it spans multiple radio stations. So, and after that, the activity ceased. But we do think that we really did come into contact with whoever's still residing there. And I think the experience was very positive. We brought a little bit of light into a space that, used to be an area where people really genuinely
I love that.
Needed an escape from. They had a dark job. Their job, well, it wasn't a job. They were forced to do what they were doing, but they did what they had to do. And then they had a great time at night in the space. So I thought it was very, very powerful.
I have to amplify something. I've caught a lot of, well, first of all, that's an amazing experience. Second, kudos to your husband for being an amazing musician. And then third, dude, okay, so, you come into this world, and I think I'm going to say this partially rude. It's a clusterfuck. A lot of paranormal activity investigators get meshed in with esoteric, with occult, with the movies, with the experiences, with the series, with ghost hunters and cryptids and Bigfoot hunters and etc. That it gets kind of like meshed into just you're a weirdo, you're one of those guys looking for like a demon and stuff. So it's kind of like when you started the story, I thought like, oh, poltergeist, oh, someone's gonna try to throw a pan at you or something. But no, you came and you said it was a very happy space, and we went in there with light and we sang, and we got, that's not what you see on National Geographic or Animal Planet. That's not what you see people trying to instigate the ghost, trying to instigate the demon or etc. So it's completely opposite. That was not expected. That was great.
Well, I just personally, I go with that philosophy that, we try to be kind. We try to keep things light. We don't antagonize. We don't, start anything when we walk in, because it's their house. We're guests in their house. And when people complain about getting scratched and getting pushed and, certain things, it might be because the conduct is not correct. And personally, I've gotten amazing evidence by just being nice. And I think that that's something that you don't see on a lot of, there are some, paranormal investigators that do practice this, and I respect them very much. But there are some people that don't, and those are the ones that are getting the jump scares. They're the ones that are doing it for the ratings, and that's just
Yes.
it's a disservice, I think, to the field, really, because
Yeah.
it's just silly, and it's not a good look.
You get involved with like mediums, you get involved with all these
Mm.
people that go in there and try to like, oh, I see the ghost, it's coming, we have to do this. Oh God. I
I'm
get it.
very
I'm not talking shit.
skeptical.
People, yeah, people look, people, if you're happy and if you have these gifted powers, all power to you. I believe you. I seen an elf. I seen an elf. And I know you're gonna be like, dude, bro, I seen an elf. And I've said this countless times on the freaking show. It's amazing. But yeah, dude, the story will never leave my brain. I was sober, fresh out of jail. I was working. I was not fucking around. Yeah, and I seen an elf. And so I believe that the paranormal exists
Hmm.
in many different on different calibers. Um, but I also know that there's a lot of people that pretend, and a lot of people
Oh
that,
yeah.
go in with it. They go in it because there's money, and they say, "Oh yeah, well we all gotta eat." Well, yeah, but like you're also kind of confusing the rest of the people, and it
Yeah.
only takes it takes if you take I always say this on the show, if you take 5 seconds off the time, hashtag look it up, people. If you take 5 seconds out of your day, go to the search bar and you search. You'll also find that there is paranormal enthusiasts and investigators that have experiences in a positive manner. For
Yeah.
example, Gina Black. I have a friend that his name is Sean Grimm, and he's also he's in the East Coast as well. He in Indiana, I believe. And yeah, he has a lot of connections too, and I love his last name. Badass last names.
That is very cool.
Yeah, Grimm, right? Yeah, he
Yeah.
hosts a podcast called the Grim War podcast. I forgot what it's called. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um. So, what is your purpose? What are you working on so far? Like, I assume that you found yourself. You seem happy.
Yeah, I am. And what's interesting is, I try my hardest to really put myself out there as someone who I want to educate, and I want to talk about, all of the research that I do. I want to find answers. I want to be, documenting and researching. But I also want to be, like I said, kind of educating others, because personally, I always loved watching these shows. I loved reading stories. I loved watching the movies. I was always very interested. Every time I would go out of town, I would try to go on a ghost tour or a history tour where they went to haunted places. And I just decided that I was going to do this. And it was a lot easier than I thought. And I just want people to know that if you're interested in doing this kind of thing, it doesn't take anybody special to do it. Everybody can experiment. Everyone can go out and see, investigate, and
Mm.
see if there's anything haunted at a location. So it's something that I really do want other people to know, because I wish somebody had told me sooner, because now that I've been doing it, it's definitely a passion of mine. But I would say, over the paramount, most important thing for me is to just find answers about the afterlife. I'm curious. I think it is an area that is, where people are becoming more and more open-minded to the subject, and we're getting really great minds looking at things and researching and asking questions. And I do think maybe within my lifetime, we'll find some more information about what exactly happens and why some energies stay, why some energies don't, where we go. There's just so many questions, and I want to be part of that crew that's moving forward and learning more about it.
You're more of a conspiracy theorist than you think. I hear you. I hear you. It's funny. Do you think now I want to go back to that experience. Do you think that if you go in there not only with the negative behavior, but you go with the black heart? When I mean black heart is with dark emotions, with dark intent, with dark thoughts, with karmatic, with a dark karma on upon you, intoxicated maybe. Do you think all of these things can play a part on in how these entities and these spirits behave?
Absolutely. I do
Mm.
think that people that have, you know, issues with drug and alcohol abuse, can become targeted, and that can be for various reasons. But like you said, you're going in there, you're in a dark place, you're vulnerable. maybe you're going through something, or there's something that is, bothering you. Maybe it's your addiction. Maybe it could be a number of different things. But these are a lot of people that come out with experiences that are very negative.
Mm.
And there's also something to be said when there's toxicity between people in a haunted location. If you have two people that are fighting, it kind of drums up more negative energy. And I do think there's something to that. I absolutely do. And when it comes to negative energy, they seek out weakness and they look for people that they can target. And if you go in there with good intentions and you ground yourself and you walk in the light and you try to keep yourself, straight and narrow on that path, then I do think that you're in a better place than somebody who doesn't. It's just, and everybody has their own opinion about this. I'm not saying there's right or wrong. Nobody is an expert in the paranormal field because we're all, students in this field. But I do think that there's an interesting correlation with that.
Do you think, and I want to have you ever been to New Orleans?
Yes.
Okay. You taking the vampire tours?
No, I haven't taken the tour.
You gotta go, dude. If you've been there, you have to. They go all through French Corner. Um, and they hit through the Mississippi and they walk you all the way inside where all these old architecture places are. You could see the acoustic properties on every corner of every chiseled spot on the. I love architecture too. Like when I go to these places, when I go to downtown LA, because I live in LA, and I mean, I'm looking at the old town because the way they built buildings back then, it was just beautiful. They tell a story. There was handcrafted art. And so yeah, I got on one of the tours, but it wasn't as gory. You have like 3 levels. There's one like for beginners, one for like mid, and then the other one that's for like higher people that are really gory, that want to know the stuff, that want to feel the teeth or whatever. But I guess there was vampires in New Orleans, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because wherever dark situations happen, for example, war, slavery, child abuse, etc., and the tears were shed, skin cells were shed, blood was shed, anything with that was traumatic events in that area, and that area holds a negative strength, a negative heartbeat connected with the location of it. And I think those areas are more they're more, I want to say, opened to having negative thoughts, negative entities happen. And then we have the people that practice magic in these landlines, in these energetic places. Do you think that magic can be amplified? And I know I'm trying to go, maybe I'm going off topic of what you're an expert of, but like, do you think that it would amplify negative entities? For example, if you would have walked into that place with to do a magic ritual?
I'm not really anyone that I don't practice magic rituals. It's not something I believe in, but I think that there is a huge something, there's something to be said with the power of, the power of suggestion and the idea that if you are in that place and you're thinking it's going to happen, it might happen because you're thinking about it and you're willing it because you're attracting it because it's what you want. But when it comes to magic, I don't know. I don't know if someone casting a spell is going to do anything to a location, but I think it's about intention. If you're going there and you have intention to find something or intention to do something or intention to see something, you might get what you wish for. So
that's what they say, careful what you wish for, right? That's why it comes out. Yeah. That's what people say that. Let me ask you the final question here. What was the biggest lesson you've learned being a paranormal investigator?
So I think the biggest lesson for me is that not everybody in the community is wonderful. I've met some amazing people, but there's also some people that are in the field for the wrong reasons. And I do think it's careful with any community to, when you're fresh faced and you're excited and you just want to be a part of everything and just be friends with everybody. And, you have to kind of dial it back a little bit because not everybody is in it for the same reasons you are. And there's drama. And, speaking to as many investigators as I've spoken to over the years, it's a community that has a lot of amazing people. But like with any community, there's going to be a few bad apples. And so that was kind of the surprising thing for me because I thought it was such a niche saying that everybody would be kind of on the same page and in it for the right reasons. But like what you said earlier, there's a lot of people that fake things. There's a lot of people that are in it for the wrong reasons because they want fame and fortune, or they want to get clout or followers or whatever they're trying to gain. There's also people that are, maybe in it to, do negative things to other people because that's who they are. So that was something interesting that I kind of, a hard lesson I had to learn. But I would say at the end of the day, I personally feel like I found my people, and, through the community is where I met my team that I put together of paranormal investigators. So I know that, there are a lot of great people out there. I guess my message basically is just be careful who you trust, be careful who you surround yourself with, because, we're talking about energies. You want to make sure you surround yourself with people that vibe with you and have the same, that match your energy.
I have to be honest with you. Everything you say, I have to agree with you. Two things I'm gonna mention. First thing is, dude, I agree. The conspiracy podcasting game is it's very muddy. There's a lot of people that are trying to do it, a lot of people that don't make it up to 7 or even 20 episodes. And even at that, the people that have made it to 20 episodes, they're in it for the money, bro. Believe it or not. And it was just recently that we started getting some traction with listeners and subscribers, and most importantly, special guests with, for example, your caliber, with the amount of followers that you have, and people that are opened to come and conversate on the show. And it was extremely hard to be taken serious by these upperclassmen, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, you part of groups sometimes, and this is not throwing a rock at anybody of the people that are listening to the show, but there's some people in groups that, yeah, you're part of the group, and yeah, you want in the beginning when I came in, I was like, yeah, I want to collaborate with him, and get these names, boom, 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 and just learn. I mean, learn how to you do the tech stuff. But then it got to a point where, like, wait, you guys don't want to fuck with me. You're like, I'm not pointing at you, but like anybody else, like you guys are partially racist, or you guys are like, oh yeah, like the new kid, or like you guys are bashing on the new kid. Like, bro, I thought you guys were welcoming. You guys are just faking the funk. You guys are faking the welcoming, right? And it's true. You have to be careful with the people that you surround with and that you're collaborating with, because you're not only exchanging words, but you're exchanging energy. And that's extremely important. That's energy and energetic powers. Your body is surrounded by this energetic pool. And if you jump into the wrong pool, or you are associate yourself with the wrong crowd of people that have a higher intention, a negative intention, you're going to be sucked into that influence. Believe it or not, you're going to be the next person doing the same damage exactly like they did it to you. And it's a chain event that you shouldn't continue doing. You should break that event. You should break that chain. Sorry. Now, I have to ask you this question. Did you ever get spooked?
So maybe. And I'll tell you, I know that you wanted a yes or no, but
no, this is perfect. That's even better, because I want to know that. I know there's
I gotta tell you the
two stories
story.
now.
I gotta tell you the story. Okay, so I had a very interesting situation that happened about 6 months ago, maybe give or take. But basically, there is a location that my paranormal team and I investigate regularly. We actually run fundraisers for this museum, and we get to investigate whenever we want. And we raise money for them with these events, and then they let us come in and have our playtime, So I'm there all the time. And on this particular night that I was there, they're in the museum. Sometimes they have rotating exhibits. So on the night we were there, we walked into this one room, and they had new antiques out in the room. And one of the girls on my team, she said, "Hey, since there's new objects in here, why don't we do a little investigating?" And immediately when I walked in this room, almost, I walked from the door to the other side of the room, I felt a vibration on my stomach. And the only way I could describe it to you is if you have your cell phone kind of tucked into your jeans or something, it was that intense of a vibration.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
it was only a split second, but it was weird. And I landed up, I didn't say anything at first to anybody. And, we did our investigating. And as we were getting ready to leave the room, I said, I felt like something was vibrating my stomach. And I told one of the girls as we were leaving, and she said, I felt something very similar on my arm, but I thought I was crazy. And so we both had this experience. We don't chalk it up to anything. I should say that the objects in the room were an exhibit from the railroad. So the museum that we're investigating at sits literally, there's a street where cars park, and then there's the railroad. And the museum was the first hotel, and now it's a museum. And the objects that they had in the room were items that were used to build the railroad. So we go on for the rest of the night. We're doing our thing. No more issues like the vibrating sensation. So we wrap up our investigation. We all sit around, share a slice of pizza. Everybody's having a good time. I go home with my husband. It was late. You know, when you leave these investigations, you're leaving in the middle of the night. So we each showered, we got into bed, go to sleep. That's it, right? Well, I had a really crazy dream, but I have to tell you the whole thing. So I have this dream where I wake up, and it was very lucid. It was very clear. I wake up in my bed. I'm in my bed, and I look over, my husband's sleeping. But I have this sense of urgency, like there's something wrong. So I take the covers off the side of my bed. I get up, I start looking around the room, and I see a man, and he's crouched. And he's crouched on the floor next to my husband's side of the bed, and he's looking up at me, and he's giving me these crazy looking eyes. I'm an artist. I could actually draw this man's picture, and that's how clearly I saw him. He was like 6'1". He's wearing a brown kind of tattered shirt. He's got brown pants on. His face is covered in sweat. His eyes are wide. He was probably late 40s, early 50s. And he is just looking at me, and he looks like he's scared. That's the only impression I got. And I wanted to scream like, get out. But you know, in your dreams, you can't really say what you want to say. It doesn't come out. So I couldn't really do it. It sounded like my teeth were gritted together, and I just couldn't get the words out. And then I wake up in real life. So I wake up in my bed, and I smell what smells like body odor. Okay. Now back it up. I mentioned when we first got home, both of us took a shower. We don't keep laundry in our room. I even like reach over and kind of sniff my husband's side of the bed just to see, and I don't smell anything from him. But I smell this overwhelming, and you know what body odor smells like. We all know what it smells like. We've all had it. It was very clear. So I get up out of bed. I'm freaked out. Now I don't think I could go back to sleep. So I'm walking around my house. You know, we keep our bedroom door closed because we have an animal. We don't want him in the room. So I open the bedroom door. I go into the living room. I'm sniffing around my house like a weirdo because I want to see if I can get the source of this smell that I smelled a minute ago. And I checked all the windows, the doors, nothing's open. I can't find the smell anymore, but I know what I smelled and I know what I saw. So I was pretty freaked out by this. And the only thought that I had was something attached itself to me when I was in this room that had railroad equipment, because the man looked like he could have worked on the railroad. He looked like a worker, and he's sweaty. Maybe he was out working all day. I don't know. And he didn't seem like he was a negative person. He seemed like he was scared. So I just, I cleansed my home. I used sage, and I haven't had any problems since, but it freaked me out. I don't want to say I was scared, but I was nervous that I wasn't going to be able to get rid of it, but I haven't had any trouble since.
Woo!
So.
That's a hot tamale right there. Yeah. I'm a hardcore, and we're going a little over right here. This is going to be probably the final comments, but no. I'm sorry, Finn. I told you 30 minutes, dude. I'm a hardcore believer in placebo and nocebo effect, and I understand that we have manifestation powers. And one of the most intriguing things in mankind is the most powerful emotion in mankind is love, and you are a creator, believe it or not. Our thoughts have weight, frequency, power, and I think that, and this is just a theory here, but maybe when you were sleeping, because this happened to other people that I know, it became a reality. That was your reality. You lived that. And it's not because you have an extreme talent or a special gift or you're a medium. No, I'm not saying that. Even though you may be. I'm not saying that you're not or you are. I'm saying that you were there. You lived that. And that became a real scenario for you where the smell and your senses were being, touched by that person, by that spirit. And thank God it wasn't a negative entity, right? However, it's extremely interesting that you were able to smell him, see him, right? Almost feel him. And it cost you a little mini panic when you woke
Yeah.
up and you smelled him, right? So
Yeah.
it's crazy, man. What did your husband think?
He he doesn't have any, he's one of those guys that is very skeptical, but there's certain things that have happened that he can't explain. And, he's been
Mm.
around for some of these investigations and things happen and he goes, I don't know. But he always says if he has to see something with his own eyes or he's not going to believe. So I actually have a theory that he's going to be the first person out of the two of us to be able to see something, even though I want to see something. But I won't be too salty about it as long as if I can get him into a little bit more of a
You guys are
believer.
in competition?
Well, he's not he joins me once in a while, but it's not really his thing. He's just on the fence about it. So
Yeah. Hey, as long as he does contribute and he does kick
Yeah.
with you, he goes with you. So that's the fun part. At least he's taking the time out of his day to, make his wife happy. Believe me, it takes a lot for a man to say, "Okay, let's go." Sometimes I just want to go to. Believe me, I do the same with mine.
yeah.
Okay, Gina Black. She came and she conquered. That was a very refreshing episode. It wasn't too conspiracy theory, guys, but it gives you hope. It gives you a sense of direction, and it's not always all black and doom and gloom and black pill. There's not only chaos. Though, yes, we believe in lizard people. Yes, we believe the government's freaking crazy. Yes, you think pharmaceutical companies are doing this. Yes, yes, yes. All that good stuff. But there is hope. There is light, and there is light warriors out here. And Gina Black is one of them. She goes into these places with a very, very light heart and positive thoughts. Again, Gina Black, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram and TikTok at SheHaunts.
Woo! TikTok too. Make sure you check her out, ladies and gentlemen. And you can also find her under our special guests and links. Check us out at ParanormalRadio.com. Gina Black, thank you so much for being here and sharing this time with us, your information and your experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget to drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. That allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. Peace out. That was great.
Thank you.
That was good. It went by fast.
Paranoid Radio.